All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating idea. This claim that a single news event, something that happened back in 1948, was actually predicted almost 2,000 years before it happened. So, how does that work? Let's get into it.
I mean, that's a pretty big question, right? Can something from today's headlines really fulfill a prophecy that's thousands of years old? Well, according to the sources we're looking at, the answer is a resounding yes. They're drawing a straight line from an ancient verse right to the pages of modern history.
So you've got this timeline that stretches for nearly 2,000 years. It starts with a prophecy on the Mount of Olives, and it ends, or at least a major part of it happens, with a new nation being declared in 1948. The big question is, what's the link? How do you connect those two dots?
Okay, so this is where we get to the heart of the matter. The main argument we're digging into today is this. The creation of the modern state of Israel wasn't just some political thing. Nope. According to this view, it was a prophetic sign, something specifically predicted ages ago.
And here it is, plain and simple. The whole idea boils down to this: the parable of the fig tree. The claim is that when Jesus told this parable, he was actually giving his followers a very specific sign to look for. And, you guessed it, the sources we're examining say that very sign showed up right on the world stage in 1948.
So, to really get a grip on this interpretation, we've got to go back to the source. We need to look at the exact words that this entire argument is built on.
Now, in this passage, there are a couple of phrases that are absolutely key to this whole viewpoint. First, the command to learn the parable. And second, that promise that this generation shall not pass until everything is fulfilled. Think of these as the main puzzle pieces we're supposed to put together.
Believe it or not, a huge part of this interpretation really hangs on that one word, learn. See, in the original Greek, the word is manthanō, and it doesn't just mean to casually notice something. The sources are pretty clear on this. They say it's more like a command, a mandate, to really study, to train yourself to see what's going on.
Okay, so if the command is to learn about the fig tree, then what is the fig tree? What does it represent? To figure that out, these sources take us on a journey through the whole Bible, tracing the symbol to see if there's a consistent meaning, and they believe there is.
And that journey really hits three major milestones. We start all the way back in Genesis, where it's a symbol for a counterfeit covering. Then we jump to Jeremiah, where it represents a nation divided against itself. And it all leads up to a direct confrontation in the book of Matthew. So let's look at its first appearance, way back in Genesis. What's it used for? Fig leaves, a man-made covering. This, they argue, sets the stage for a core theme. The fig tree symbolizes something that has an outward appearance of being okay, but on the inside, there's no real substance.
Now, fast forward to the book of Jeremiah, and we see the symbol evolve. Here, God uses two baskets of figs to show a split within the nation of Judah. You've got the good figs, the obedient ones, and the evil figs, the corrupt rulers. So now, the fig tree isn't just about appearance, it's a direct symbol for the spiritual state of an entire nation.
And that brings us right back around to Jesus. Because right before he gives this parable, he does something pretty dramatic. He curses a fig tree. Why? Because it had leaves, but no fruit. This act is seen as a powerful, prophetic judgment against the religious system that looked alive on the outside, but was spiritually barren.
Okay, buckle up, because this is probably the most complex piece of the puzzle. To really nail down the timing of the parable, this viewpoint says we have to look again at that word generation. And to do that, we have to go all the way back to the Garden of Eden.
This verse right here, from Genesis 3, is considered the bedrock for what's called the two seeds doctrine. The interpretation is that this verse establishes a long-running conflict, not just between two people, but between two entire lineages, two seeds that are going to be at odds with each other all through history.
Now, to back this up, the sources point to the original Hebrew word for serpent, which is nakash. And get this, it can also mean a shining one. So the argument is, we're not talking about a literal snake here. We're talking about a title for an intelligent, deceiving being, Satan. And this, they say, is the origin of one of those two seeds.
Okay, so here's the linchpin. This is where it all connects. The Greek word used for generation in that parable is genia, and it has a double meaning. Sure, it can mean all the people living at the same time, but it can also mean a stock, a race, or offspring. So the argument goes, when Jesus said this generation, he wasn't talking about a 40 or 70-year time span. He was referring specifically to one of those competing seedlines that goes all the way back to Genesis.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've got a command to learn, we've got the fig tree as a symbol for a nation, and we have the word generation possibly referring to a specific lineage. So, how does this viewpoint tie all of that into one final recognizable sign?
Well, according to this teaching, for centuries, the fig tree was basically dormant. The nation of Israel was scattered. But then, in our modern era, something happened. A visible, undeniable sign. The tree started to publicly leaf out again.
And in this view, that sign appeared in one single pivotal year, 1948. This is presented as the moment the prophetic clock began to tick for that final generation.
So let's break it down from this perspective. When the state of Israel was declared, that's seen as the fig tree, the nation, putting its leaves back out for the whole world to see. It's a huge global sign. Now, the sources are really careful to say this isn't about trying to pick a date for the end of the world. It's about recognizing that a brand new and final season has started.
And this quote really sums up the whole point of this teaching, doesn't it? The goal isn't to be a date setter trying to predict the exact day or hour. The goal is to be a season recognizer, to fulfill that original command to learn and to watch so you can understand the times by seeing the signs that were promised.
And that really leaves us with one last thing to chew on. If this whole interpretation is about spotting a season, a whole era, instead of just a single date, well, what does that actually mean for how someone is supposed to watch and wait? How is that different from just staring at a calendar, waiting for one specific date to arrive?